So now our job is to draw a pair of congruent triangles with a shared side. And right now I'd like to make the point for you to know that there are many ways for us to draw, to construct congruent triangles. And there's also many ways for us to draw a pair of congruent triangles with a shared side. So the method I'm about to show you is not the only way to do it. But to me, I think it's the cleanest way to draw a pair of congruent triangles. And instead of starting with the shared side of a pair of congruent triangles like we did with the vertical angles, I'm actually going to start by trying to draw a parallelogram, and which involves me starting with a pair of parallel lines. And if you don't remember how to draw your parallel lines, this would be a good time to catch up on that. So I'll have one line go over this way, and that'll be my first line. And I'm going to try to draw a parallel line to it, which means I'm going to start by drawing a transversal, which later on will probably serve as one of the sides of my parallelogram. So I'm going to keep it on the left side over here so that I have space to construct the other parallel line. And now that I have this transversal cutting this line, I am going to try to copy this angle. And if you don't remember how to copy congruent angles, now might be a good time to watch one of the Unit 1 videos. So we start by establishing my first arc, and I'm going to do the same thing up here. Is establish my first arc. And now that I have that, I am going to figure out where my second arc is supposed to be by finding the intersection of my first arc with my original line. Drawing an arc so I kind of know what I'm looking for. And now I will do the same thing to the congruent angle I am trying to construct. And now that I've found the intersection of these two arcs, I can draw a line through them. And now I have one pair of parallel lines. Now some of you might say, Mr. Wong, that's not even a pair of congruent lines yet. We only have three sides of this parallelogram. But if you think of this as my bottom line, and you think of either this line or this line as my transversal, I can very easily copy the step I did down here, up here. And at this point, I would actually recommend you erase the arcs that you've already drawn so that you don't confuse yourself with too many things to look at. And you know what? I'll choose this line as my transversal for now. And once again, I'm going to be creating my first arcs. Oh. And I'll put it right over here. Get my first arc going. And that's what I'm going to do up here. And then once I establish my first arc, I'm going to establish my second arc, which once again, it's the intersection of the first arc you drew and the line it intersects. So then I'll have another arc going this way, which is what I'm going to copy up over here on this angle. And try to get that point of intersection. And now that I have this point of intersection, I know that I can draw a line through it again. And now I have a tried and true parallelogram. I'm going to draw those parallel symbols in. And some of you right now might be wondering, why I'm so adamant about creating this out of a parallelogram. And I'll show you why in a sec. I'm going to put in my parallel symbols over here. They might become useful later. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a segment diagonally through two opposite vertices in this parallelogram. And now we have a pair of triangles with a shared side. Mind you, I said we have a pair of triangles, not a pair of congruent triangles just yet. I need to prove to myself that I can make a pair of congruent triangles. And now I'll show you why the parallel lines are important. The first pair of congruent sides is easy to find because we know that it's just the side that the two triangles share. And that's not really enough to say that two triangles are congruent. Now this is where the parallel lines come in handy. If you think of this line as a transversal and these are two parallel lines, then I know that this angle and this angle have to be congruent from the alternate interior angle theorem. And so far I have an angle and a side, and what I can do is I can look at this sideways like this and recognize these two as the parallel lines, and this is the transversal for these two parallel lines now. In which case I know that this angle up here is congruent to this angle down here. And now that I have a pair of congruent sides between two pairs of congruent angles, I know that I've created two congruent triangles by the angle side angle theorem.